Yay, it's working. That's
Oh,
great.
good.
Margaret, I can't see you though. All I see is part of you. Oh, there you go.
Yeah,
Now I
I
can
put
see you.
my phone in charging because it's gonna die, but it won't sit up on my laptop.
Oh,
It keeps falling over. So unless you want to look at me sideways,
oh no, that's fine. I just couldn't figure out. I'm like, what's the problem? Why can't I not see her? Okay,
yeah,
that's fine.
my laptop's being stupid too, so it won't let you see me. That's why the other picture of me is up.
Yeah, I figured that part. So, okay. No big deal. No worries.
Okay, so what we're supposed to do is the two of you are supposed to decide from the roles. You can be Sid Noble, Ruth Gibson, Miles Haddock, Gus Teller, and Bill Purcell, whichever one you want to be. And then you're supposed to go back to the reading and look at that person so that we can act out. Um,
You have to act out. Oh,
yeah,
joy.
role playing.
Okay, well, I gotta find which reading that what wasn't out.
It
Was
was
that Alcoa?
it was the unpopular pay plan.
I don't remember that one.
Neither do I.
Well, I
What
just
did you say
clicked
it
on
was?
the link and it doesn't take you to a reading, so I don't know how we're supposed to do this.
Because I don't recall. Maybe I did. Maybe I missed it, and I totally could have. So what's the one that? What was it called again,
The
Margaret?
unpopular pay plan. So
Okay.
if you're looking on the iLearn, you click on reading compensation, and then it has a link to the case of the unpopular pay plan. But when you click on it, it doesn't give you the case.
Okay. Wait a minute. Which one is it? So if I'm looking under which reading?
The
Oh, the
compensation.
discussion prep. I'm
So
so
it's
confused.
so we're on week 8. So you go down to reading compensation and click on it.
I thought we were on week
Yeah, I think we're on week 7.
Or week
7.
7? Maybe I'm ahead. Maybe that's oh that
So
would be
Yeah, I was like, I thought I got everything this week. Darn it. Yeah,
never
we're on
mind. I must
motivation.
be on
Save.
week 8 in a different class.
oh,
Oh.
okay. I was having a heart attack going, what did I read? What
I
didn't I
know.
read? Are you serious? I'm
No,
like, is it under
I'm sorry.
motivation? Is it under workplace safety? Which is it? Sorry. Whew.
So this might be a little rougher because I haven't read this one. Imagine you are Merton, and it's time for your 9 a.m. meeting with Tevins and Harris.
Okay.
Do you know who those people are?
Yeah.
Okay. What position would you advocate in this meeting?
I would advocate for the employee being fired because he is in charge of safety over his group, and he had warnings. I think they said he had 3 warnings that he needed to improve the safety in his area, and he did not do it. Um, so you don't want to wait till it's too late till somebody gets hurt, and then, oh, you're fired. I mean, if he's not listening to the warnings and taking those precautions and sending his workers out into unsafe environments not protected, I think, unfortunately, he sounds like a nice guy. He's got a family and everything they said. I think he needs to be fired before somebody does get hurt.
And I agree. My only question about that is because they seem to be pushing production. It's like I think there's other ways they could have helped him with the safety aspect of it other than just saying do it. But yes, I mean ultimately a safe worker is more important than production. So yeah, I would agree.
So is it all Stepanik's fault? Like everything that happened?
It's hard to say because you don't get all that much information in that little bit they tell you. So you don't know when they warned him what specifically they said in the warning, like what he needs to do specifically or how involved the warning was other than, hey, quit doing that. So it could have been some of the higher-ups' fault, maybe not getting on him earlier or being more specific, but I don't know. And if he told the workers to do it, maybe the workers need to step up and say, if it's not a safe environment, say, hey, I'm not doing that. I need to take time to get my protective gear on, or I need to do whatever to protect myself. I don't know. That's a tough situation, I think.
Yeah, I don't think that it was all his fault. I think that there was some overall issues that they could have done to increase safety. I think it was a tough balancing act for him, and I think he chose that. I think he chose not to be safe, but not because he wanted to get anyone injured. I think it was just the easier path. I think that there was other people down the chain. After his first warning, I would think that, like Amy said, we don't get tons of information, but why was not upper management walking with him? Why did it take 3, after the first, someone should have stepped in and said, okay, do you realize there should have been more training and mentoring at that point than we got to the repetitive issue, in my opinion. I think there's other things that could have happened.
So what are the implications for workers, families, supervisor, and senior management if he is fired?
Well, it's going to stink for his family, but hopefully people will know that they're taking the safety stuff seriously. Hopefully that they'll learn and think, oh, I don't want to get fired, so I need to make sure I'm following these safety procedures and take this seriously because they take it seriously, so I'm going to take it seriously.
I mean, it sends a message, and unfortunately, a message needs to be sent, obviously. But I think if he's fired, then there needs to be reprimands up the chain of command because he's not an island. If there are people under him that weren't being safe too, and they know the same rules and regulations that he does. And there's people above him that know the same rules and regulations that he does. And if it took him 3 times at this point, legally, if someone had gotten really injured after the first time, this company is legally liable. I mean, so it does cover their legal butt by firing him, saying, we don't tolerate this blatantly excusing our policies and procedures and our safety guidelines. But there's people below him and above him that are equally as culpable, in my opinion, for the lack of safety. So I think that there's other repercussions that need to happen. If they deem this bad enough, and of course I think, but this is them. If they deem this bad enough that he should be fired, then I think that those above him are ultimately also responsible. Maybe not to the point that they're fired, but there needs to be some sort of reprimand or some sort of changes in the policies and procedures as to why, what did we say, 2 or 3 times that this was an issue with him.
Okay, so for the next part, it says that we're supposed to divide into groups, but we don't really have enough people to do what it wants us to do. So I guess I'll just ask the questions and we can do it together. So it wants us to compare exhibits 3 and 7 and answer the question, when safety improves, does productivity decrease?
Exhibits 3 and 7?
Yeah.
Exhibit 3.
Okay, Margaret, say that again. We got 3 and 7, and we're supposed to look for what?
When safety improves, does productivity decrease?
Well, Exhibit 3 is the total production and employee hours by production department.
It just says Exhibits 3 and 7. I don't know what.
Well, it kind of does look like the more when the injuries go down, so does the production. The hours, total production hours are going down, and so are the serious injuries. So they're getting safer, they're just not being able to do as much production. And I didn't make that correlation when I was reading it the first time, so that's interesting.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, this Exhibit 3 is not Exhibit 3 is for lack of a better term, bad. It doesn't really tell you. It tells you employee hours by department, and then they go, production totals. So I'm not sure how they're getting the production work totals. If they're, they've got the total hours obviously divided by something to get the total production hours. But like in August of 1991, it shows that work totals or production is 19.4, but then as a 1 month, and then we go through January and August. So we've got several months. So we're asked to compare months versus years, and that's really hard. So, I mean, if you're looking just at July of 1991 versus August of 1991,
that's true. I was looking at the wrong.
It looks like production went up in July and dropped in August, and it looks like injuries were up in July and down a little bit in August. So that shows that they produced more in July and produced less in August and had more accidents in July than in August. And if we're looking year to year, if we just look for 1990 and versus 1989, it looks like in 1990 their production was a little less than in 1989, and also their injuries in 1990 were less than their injuries in 1989. So it does, with the exception of 1988, if we're looking at 1988, total production of 204.2, but their total work average for their serious injuries in 1989 was 7.84. And so in that instance, their production was less than in 1989, but their injuries were more. If you're looking at 1988 versus 1989.
Yeah.
And in addition, if you're look at 87, it looks like from 87 and 89, their production got better, but their injuries decreased up until 1989, and their injuries continued to decrease, but instead of their production going up, their production went down. So from 1987, 1988, and 1989, their production increased, but their serious injuries decreased. However, that changed in 1990 when their serious injuries continued to decrease. However, now their production also decreased. Am I reading that right, Amy? Is that what you're seeing?
Yeah, you're reading that right. Yeah, because when I first looked at it, I was just looking right down the line at August, going all the way down from August, and I didn't realize that they had the months and then all the years. I had to look at that a little bit more in depth. But yeah, you were reading it right. That's true.
Well, I just couldn't figure out why we're at 20.3 for,
Right.
and 19.4, and then we're at 153. I'm like, well, yeah, our production's dropped. Oh, we're doing months versus years.
Right. Yes.
Yeah.
That is true. You got it.
Yeah, so next we're supposed to look at Exhibit 5 and figure out which injury numbers are improving or going down and which ones are going up.
Does it give a specific year marker, or does it just say in general?
It just says in general.
So exhibit number 5. I'm really glad I printed all these out.
I know, me too. I'd be in big trouble.
Let's see. Well, obviously, total serious injuries are going down. What was the question again, Margaret? I'm sorry.
Which injury numbers are going down and which ones are going up? It's not consistent on any of them. Like some of them it goes down and then it goes back up and then it goes back down.
Yeah, for instance, if you look at hazardous arrangements, in 87 we're at 25, and then 88 we're at 18, and 89 we're at 13, and then we pop up at 1990 to 15, and then so far from January to August of 1991 we're at 9. So yeah, that kind of went. That was marked. You know, there was a marked line of going down, and then popped back up in 1990. And I was just trying to see across the board. Also in 1990, it looks like failure to secure went down under combining action. Failure to secure went from 89 to 81 to 74, and then up to 78 in 1990. And also in 1990, improper position, which in my opinion seems very steady. I mean, 138 to 126 is a big jump. But if you're thinking over a year, that's really not that many. You know, you're talking 12 injuries over a year. That's one a month. And so that it seems like the improper position seemed to stay relatively steady, even though it bumped back up to 122. But the numbers from January to August of 1991 at 102, even if they have one a month or a couple a month, it seems like it'll still be low or lower. But those are the only ones I see that really went up. And what do you guys? Did you guys see any that I'm missing?
No, that's good.
No, that sounds good. So next we're supposed to go to Exhibit 6 and go through the list of sample injuries. Look for common themes and causes.
Well, I remember looking at it earlier, and it seemed like there was a lot of just like falls, like misfooting or a slip, and then when they fell, however they fell, that caused the injury. They seem like they're things that nobody's doing anything wrong. It's just like those little freak accidents that just can happen to anybody.
Right. There's a lot of slipping and tripping.
Mm-hmm.
And
Well, and I think the thing that we're missing is it's like if you look at it, it's just overall not paying. For me, it's just overall they're not paying attention. I mean, the first one, the guy runs over someone else's foot, and then, you know, you're cleaning chips off a table, your foot slipped on chips. First of all, why are you standing on a table? I mean, seriously, they're common sense things. If you're going to back up a forklift, make sure someone's not there. I mean, if you're going to clean chips off a table, why are you standing on that said table? And is there going to be a way that you can collect the chips before they get on the table? You know, it just seems like, yeah, employee sucking chips off of roof and steel brace which holds hose fell on foot. I mean, they seem like common sense things.
Mm-hmm.
And it's always those little common sense things that can go into big giant things. Like someone reaching over something and getting burned. Well, walk around, dude. Walk around. Come around. Come around.
Yeah, that's true, because we can't always blame it on somebody else. Not, oh, they didn't train me right. It's, you got to be responsible for your own actions. Of, oh, I'm being too lazy to walk around. I'm trying to reach over, so I got burned. Well, that's my own fault for not being smart about it.
And it kind of tells you the culture, because I'm sure this isn't the first time he reached up
Right.
and over. And I'm sure other people have seen him reach up and over. And everyone reaches up and over, because I really highly doubt that all of a sudden something happened and he decided to reach up and over, and that first time he did it, he got burned. You know, it shows a pattern of behavior that is reckless. And I think that that's the issue, is that you're seeing all of these. I mean, how many times did the fork truck driver not pay attention to what he was doing? He's lucky all he did was run over someone's foot.
Right.
I mean, because like I said, the odds of this being the only time that the very first time he wasn't exactly paying attention and didn't make sure where everyone was, I doubt that was the one time that he ran over, you know, obviously it was the first time he ran over someone's foot, but this, I would guess this wasn't the first time he wasn't paying attention.
Yeah.
And it also kind of shows me that they had a couple brace fallings, and you had some C-clamps not working. It also tells me that they're not spending enough money on maintenance and repair. I mean,
Yeah,
several
that's a big one.
fell. And things falling off and braces not working, that tells me that they're not spending enough money on maintenance and repair.
Good point.
So what has Mission Valley done in the past to improve its safety record so much that they have so few serious injuries compared with other similar companies?
Say that again?
What has Mission Valley done in the past to improve its safety record that they have so few serious injuries?
Well, I know that once they had that last death, I think it was the third one, they went and spent, what was it, $4 million on safety regulations and changes. So they spent a lot of money to make whatever they did happen. So whether it was training or buying safety equipment, painting the yellow lines, whatever they did, I know that they've spent a lot of money to do it.
Yeah, I think that they, unfortunately, it comes down to the dollar. You know, they were forced, because of the major issues they had, that they had to spend the money. And I don't think that if they had not had that major issue, I don't know that they would have spent all the money that they did to upgrade their equipment. Well, not necessarily equipment, but to do the safety upgrades that they needed to do. Unfortunately, that's not the only company that waits till a tragedy happens before you do what you need to do. Just like I said, talking about the maintenance, just doing the basic maintenance of keeping braces and things like that. And so I just think it was the money. I mean, I think it was also the awareness that they were aware of a problem because they had a death. You know, they had something major happen. Don't you think?
Yeah.
I mean, if you lose something that's important to you, or, you know, I keep thinking, when I was reading this, I keep thinking about how I could equate it to everyday life. You know, if you look at my car keys, my car keys have like 5,000 keychains on them. My husband hates it. He won't drive with my keys. I was constantly losing my keys growing up. I mean, it was just one key. You know, you had a car key and you had a house key. And so the more keychains and things I put on it, I never lost it because you couldn't lose them. They were this huge monstrous thing. And all it took was me really losing them one time after I'd gotten married, and my husband hated it, so I always took all my keychains off, and I had this one little thing, so whoever was driving, there wasn't this big giant thing he had to put in his pocket. And then I lost my keys, and I'm telling you, I lost them, and I was late, and it became this big thing. I had all these things to do, and I'm like, no, you know, I'm doing this, and I put them all back, and I haven't lost them since. because and they end up in a couch, in the couch cushion behind that I didn't see. And I know that that doesn't compare to someone's death, but it's just that kind of thing that you do things and then you stop doing them because you think they're okay, and then something bad happens. And then you realize that you need to do some corrective things to make sure that doesn't happen again.
Right.
And as much as we talk about it as these, these big cases, it also is so in our everyday. It's when we stop doing the little things that all of a sudden the big things happen, whether that's with church or whether that's with reading scriptures or whether that's with working on your relationship with your spouse. It's when you stop doing the little things that the big things always happen. And I think these companies are experiencing that, especially, with the death and the things that they did to correct it.
Yeah, that's true. That's a good point. Yeah.
So the next question is, do you always follow safety procedures, such as wearing a seatbelt, crossing at the crosswalk, using a ladder instead of a chair, and driving the speed limit?
I'm good at some of those and bad at some of those. Seatbelt I'm great at. Speed limit, that's a toughie for me. Crosswalk, no. I should to set the good example, but crosswalk's a hard thing to find around here.
It's funny because when I'm driving, I have no seatbelt issues. The seatbelt just goes on. When I'm in the passenger seat, I struggle. And I don't know why. I insist that all my kids do. But my husband will go, "We're waiting on you, love." And I'm like, "Oh, that dinging, that."
Not with me.
And it's funny because I didn't have that problem when we were in smaller cars. We have a larger car now, and it's like it's almost like I'm indestructible in the car, so I don't need to buckle. Speed limit. I guess I know too much about the speed limits. I've got I've got brothers that are police officers, and the difference between 75 and 80 when it comes to safety is very minimal. So I struggle with that. I mean, it's different. If you're going 45 versus 85, yes, obviously there's a huge safety issue. But when you're talking 75 to 80, pretty much you're just aiming the car anyway. It's not going to be, So I struggle with that one. I have to say, I struggle with that one. But I would think that would be a greater question: is do you follow those spiritual safety guidelines, and not so much the physical ones? Because I think a majority of people buckle their seatbelt, and I think this is I don't know, Margaret, do you always buckle your seatbelt? You're of a younger generation than Amy and I.
Right.
If I'm driving or in the passenger seat, I do, and if I'm driving with my parents, I do. If I'm in the back of a friend's car, I don't do it.
Well, you better.
Yes, you better.
I know. So the question is, what would it take to get us to change our behavior?
Hold on just a second. My husband's talking to me. Hold on. Keep going.
Well, I would hope that I would just be smart and make changes and just do it without something bad happening, before there was a bad accident and someone was hurt. For me to slow down. So hopefully I would just be smart and just know that we have these guidelines there for a reason, so I need to do better about following them.
Well, that looks like everything.
That's good.
Yeah.
Oh, that's good. That wasn't too bad.
Oh, I guess the wrap-up question: what did you learn from talking about this case that would apply to future workplaces?
Well, I would say you have to be responsible for your own, whether you're talking about safety or whatever, you have to be responsible for your own actions. You can't always blame it on, oh, my supervisor didn't make me, or my supervisor didn't tell me. You need to kind of make sure that you're doing the right thing, the safe thing, and you're responsible for your own actions.
I agree. I think you have to use your common sense. You have to realize that the shortest, fastest way is not always the safest way, and is it worth losing an arm? Is running that red light right there going to be It'll save you 5 minutes, but is it worth losing your life or losing the lives of those in the car with you? You know what I mean?
Mhm. Well, that is it.
Fantastic.
Okay, do we want to chat about the doohickey really fast?
Yeah, we probably should.